Welcome to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, the podcast that connects manufacturers to local operators. With deep industry experience and a proven track record of successful partnerships, Affinity Group is your bridge to driving growth and seizing opportunities in food service. Let's build success together, one connection at a time.
We're here to connect the dots between big ideas and local impact without needing GPS or a crystal ball. I'm your host, Mindy Kopacz, and today we're tackling business intelligence. Yes, BI, the thing that sounds like it belongs in a spy thriller, but is really just data in a very smart suit. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, great, more dashboards, more pie charts, let me assure you we're skipping the boring boardroom vibes and going straight to the juicy stuff. Because who doesn't want their data to actually tell them something useful? So buckle up, grab a coffee, and let's turn this mountain of numbers into a game plan for success. BI never tasted so good. I'm joined today by a panel of industry experts.
Neil Gladstone, Vice President, Sales Strategy Planning and Analytics with Affinity Group.
Matt Wopperer, Senior Product Manager of TELUS Agriculture and Consumer Goods.
Chelsea Rosengarten, Strategic Business Director for Food Away from Home from McCormick.
So the world is collecting all of this data at a rapid pace. How is that impacting the food service industry?
Yeah, I came over, my career prior to this was with retail. And I think there was a misconception when I came over that food service has no data. And what I've said since I've come over to our food service division is we have more data than we know what to do with. It may not be in a tidy package necessarily. There is more probably than we even have the resources to action on right now. So I think it can be pretty overwhelming at times to know even where to get started with the data that you have at hand because there's so many resources available for it.
And I'll echo that point. I mean, being in the technology space and being in this industry now for 13 years, I believe, to kind of what Neil was talking about, where we've come in the last 10 years, I mean, data was not a thing. I mean, I think sales strategy was, hey, we're going to go out and flip rocks and try to find an opportunity. And that was really the way that people would go about it. And then, again, somewhere in the last 5 to 10 years, data is now everywhere. I mean, I think CPGs have data at their fingertips, both internally, but then there's external factors coming into play. There's a lot of companies that are popping up specializing in data aggregation. And Chelsea, to hit on your point, whether it's you or anyone I talk to, there's so many CPGs out there or sales agencies that really just don't know what to do with that data, how to organize it, how to harmonize it, and how to bring it to life. And I think a key point that I'll try to hit on today is this simplification of the data. We're talking about salespeople. I mean, ultimately, a lot of a sales organizations not data analysts. I mean, obviously, data analysts have a role in that, but empowering the salesperson to have quick, actionable data at their fingertips is so crucial. And I can't tell you how many people I've heard say some of the similar things you just said. We have a lot of data, we don't know what to do with it, and it's a little bit scary at times, I think, for people to actually try to bring it to life. It's a hard process, but that's something that we're trying to solve for CPGs out there, and look forward to talking through this a little bit more.
Yeah, I think to echo both of what you're saying is a lot of the industry is data rich and analytics starved type scenario, and I think what Matt had referenced is trying to organize it in a manner where it can be utilized and leveraged, right? And I think partnering up with a company like TELUS has been very helpful, having that resource there, and really becoming like part of our DNA and our go-to market strategy and how we plan, how we target, how we leverage those insights, and that operator information is really crucial to executing out in the street.
And I think Neil just hit the key word right at the end there is execution. I think a lot of people, when it comes to data, focus on the insights part. And that's obviously very important. I need to get meaningful insights out of my data. But if you don't have a plan and technology to actually execute on that insight, you've only really done half the battle. I mean, the whole point, right? And I'm going to use a phrase that Neil has said to me so many times over the year. At the end of the day, I'm trying to sell one more case. That's what we're trying to use data for, is to grow our business. And I think a lot of people miss out on the execution part and making sure that you have the platform to be able to take that data and easily execute on that insight. And again, I'll hit on that more, but I think it's a really critical piece that not a lot of people talk about.
Well, I think, and also it's execution, but it's also bringing value to the operator. So it's relevant information, relevant solutions to that operator and that customer, both in distribution, customers. I mean, it's again, it's really about what insights do we have access to? How do we bring more value to the operator and really bring them good solutions? And once you do that, that extra case just happens, right?
It can't be data for data's sake, which
Right.
I think we find a lot, right? Is there's these rabbit holes you can go down or data sources you can find, but unless there's something valuable for the customer at the end of that, it's not going to matter for us.
So, Neil, you mentioned the operators. Let's camp out there for a minute before we think about the other industry partners. When we're talking about operators, what data do they have? What data are they looking for? What solutions are we using to help sell to operators? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So it's a combination of a lot of different sources. Access to syndicated information that allows us to provide different menu trends and insights, for the operator, by segment, a lot of different variations, and then really just our own homegrown information from our sales team, that as we continue to collect information about those customers, really better understand the purchasing behaviors and where we can bring different solutions to them. Those are just some pieces.
Yeah, and I think for us, our sales and marketing teams do a great job of really bringing down that sales funnel from awareness to action. And really in that early stage with operators, it is that syndicated menu data, right? What are we seeing in terms of menu trends that they might be able to capitalize on? That really, if you're an operator, depending on the size of your business, you may not have time to mine that data, right? So how can we bring value to them in those insights? The awareness of the menu trends is incredibly important as we bring them through there. And then, as we were talking earlier, that's solution-based to line up with those insights that we have, solutions we might have. And then, Neil, you kind of talked about having some of that claims data or insight from the street. I think that also becomes critically important because there's ways we can use that data to even optimize their operation. Right? If we have visibility to what their lineup is, hey, here's how you can even be more efficient with the products that you have. Here's how you can use them in a different way for your menu. So I think that solution and value-based approach is what's most important to us with the data that we have.
And that's really what, with our strategic partners, that's really what we're looking to do is try and partner up and really leverage that data that you have access to, and then look at, all these different tools and resources that really enable us, like what we're doing with Matt and his team, and the software really allows us to be more prescriptive in what we're doing. To what you had mentioned, Chelsea, about really leveraging that information to bring that different value, make them operationally more effective. Again, it really comes down to more value to the customer. We continue to bring solutions and how we can leverage that information to do so.
I think I'll just speak to what I see as an opportunity as the industry evolves. I mean, we just talked about how far the industry has come in the last 10 years, but it's still really at its infancy about how we're leveraging data. And part of the opportunity to me is how we integrate or intertwine data sets. So if we're talking about syndicated menu data, but also syndicated claims data, those are really two different data sets, but they can work together in such powerful ways. And so, imagine a world, and I think that world's coming very soon, to be able to walk into an operator and have a good idea obviously what their menu is, but am I already selling them a product already? So maybe I don't actually go make the call on that operator. So if I'm looking for targets, for example, and I say, okay, show me operators with this on their menu. Well, I might pull back 100 operators, but understanding and leveraging the claims data, I might already be selling 20 of those. Am I really going to go make the sales call? Because sales calls, as we know, are very expensive to make, and we got to make efficient use of our time. So I think that's part of the opportunity, and then also being able to come up with menu recommendations, again, based on their menu, but also based on maybe trending items in that segment or that cuisine or that market, right? So we all, the United States, the Southeast market is very different than the Pacific West. I mean, there's just different trends. And so how all that works together and how it's going to evolve, I think is really exciting and things that we're going to be focusing on. But that's also, I guess, just to parlay this into what the opportunity is with these things, I think that's where I see the industry going in the next few years.
Yeah, there's one other source of data that I think is untapped, and we continue to try to mine for opportunities, and that's at least pulling in consumer insights we have as well, right? So especially for the operators, like I said, who, they know their consumer base, but how do they want to grow? What kind of consumers do they want to grow with? It's been really important to us to bring in what consumer insights, whether it's Gen Z, Gen Alpha, how do we bring that to them as well so that they can grow their own business and their consumer base?
Yeah, well, it's a great point because understanding the consumers that are walking into these operators, it's important to know, and that's how you can really, again, I keep saying bring value, but it is being able to help the operator understand their consumer base.
Yes.
So that you can really bring the right information and right solutions and right products that really are relevant to the menu.
It's funny as we say this, it all sounds like it's so easy to pull these pieces together, right? Okay, here's how we'll do that. That to me is the challenge we have. A lot of it feels very manual or time consuming to get those level of insights, right? Down from consumer, operator, menu to what they're actually claiming against or where the opportunity is.
And this is, I guess, I'll throw in a plug for our solutions, but I agree with you in that it's very difficult. That's what we're doing as a company. And obviously, I'm very in tune with all the work that's going on behind the scenes at TELUS to make that come to life for a company. Again, so many of our clients struggle with the same things you're talking about, and they don't have the people to be able to mine those data sets. And again, I'll go back to their disparate data sets. I mean, every data set in itself is its own thing, and it has its own value. But when you can get to a point, and we're at this point, to be able to bring that all into one solution and then intertwine them and be able to provide even next level insights based off of that is really important. And just a continued focus for us, because again, it's a huge problem for every organization out there. So that's essentially the problem we're attempting to solve for the industry.
Yeah, I think like the challenge is really activating all this stuff, right? I think for us as an agency, we've really built a team, sales enablement team that really are partnering up with sales and other departments within the organization to really help activate this information.
That's such a good point. And Mindy and I actually were talking about this on the plane yesterday about, and I'll give you Affinity Group so many kudos for how you empower your sales team with train. The software is the software, and the software is extremely important to the operation and the execution efficiency. But it also takes people in a good organization and empowering and training and really taking the time to understand, how do I use this to move my business forward. And I think Affinity Group does a phenomenal job of supporting, again, every team across the board of how to effectively use the tools and the data and the system to really achieve your growth targets. So I think that's really, really important.
Collecting the data isn't enough, right? Getting it and putting it on a shelf and admiring it and saying we have it doesn't do anything. It's what we do with it that matters. And I think what Neil and his team really try to do is humanize it. It's a phrase that we use a lot at Affinity Group, is humanize the data. But really what we're trying to do is connect the people to the data, right? The operator itself. We don't want to look at an operator one manufacturer at a time. We want to look at the whole operator and what solutions we can provide them. Right. And we want to understand what makes sense for the different accounts. And Neil, can you talk a little bit about how your team tries to help our team do just that?
Yeah, I mean, so you said, a couple of terms that are pretty familiar within our organization is, humanizing the data, but also clearing the debris. And it's, how do we, again, organize this so that we're more effective, we're making those decisions, and then enabling the sales team to leverage the insights and information effectively and efficiently. And, it's a big part of that is building the team to create those resources. But also what Matt had mentioned is training. Like, we've spent over the last year a lot of effort and time over trying to train the team to leverage the resources So again, they can spend more time in front of the customer, less time behind a screen trying to understand it. So that's really what we're trying to do.
A couple key points I want to echo, and this is going to sound crazy coming from a product manager, but part of our goal is to not have the rep have to be in the software all the time, right? So we very intentionally call it sales enablement and not CRM, because I think CRM has a connotation of being a big brother and, hey, I'm just keying things in, and it's not actually helping me sell more, versus looking at it as sales enablement is I'm enabling the selling process, right? It's in the name. And the other thing that I think is extremely important, talking about humanizing the data, is bringing it right to the rep. So putting myself in Affinity Group shoes, if they're consuming data from McCormick and they're consuming data from client A, B, C, D, it's coming to them in all different ways with all different nomenclatures. And it will never be successful if the rep has to go this place for McCormick data, and this other place for this other data, and this other place for this other data. It's about enabling that sales team to have everything in one place, and right at their fingertips in a simplified manner. I'll keep going back to that word as well, as the simplification of the data, key data points right on the screen. I don't have to go mining for it, and it's all right there for me. So definitely a focus area for us that we've spent a lot of time talking about with Affinity Group too, and it's been a really true partnership to really get that right for our users. And
I would say our partnership, I know Neil's heard me say this quite a bit. I think in the past, food service as a whole, when it comes to data, has been really good at the what, but the so what and the now what is the piece that sets us apart and to move forward in this industry. And if we're not bringing forward to that sales team to enable them the so what and now what, again, it's data for data's sake. I think the thing I've learned the last 2 years in this industry, and definitely with the help of the Affinity team, is the amount of refining, and I love that, clearing the debris. I haven't heard you say that before, that we have to do. Because I have so many examples of when we've worked together and we start with, a target list of, a few hundred, and we get down to 20, but they're the most meaningful 20. And I think that is a really unique aspect of this space that can feel like you're not impacting in the way you want to when you're saying, well, I had a few hundred and now I'm down to 20. But the success rate on those 20 is so high that it's worth it. And you're not getting that debris of the other few hundred that you had originally.
So we talk a lot, also a buzzword for us is unlocking the data. How do we do that? What does that mean?
The unlock for us is really that the team that we have. We have a phenomenal team on the sales enablement team that really, they're not just analysts. They got great personalities. They connect with the sales team, and it's really them trying to be that kind of partner with sales and management, and client management, and all of the departments.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of going back to the purpose of this session about business intelligence. For me, unlocking the data, as I think about business intelligence, is data for decision making. And that can be a really hard thing for us. So I think about, we have a great team as well at McCormick. Our team has an expanse of a lot of different data systems they're utilizing today, right, for different purposes. And if you don't go in with a strategic mindset of where you want to mine and what's your almost like scientific process of your hypothesis that you're testing, you'll get lost in the data. So I think that's the upfront work we have to do. And then the second piece of unlocking that data is something Neil said earlier, which is getting really comfortable with failing fast. And I think we've had a lot of experiences with that with you all as Affinity. There's just things we'll test. Yeah. And we have great results. We have, medium results, but we learn from them and we're okay with, we did this quick. We learned. We're going to move to the next thing based on those learnings.
And I hope there's not a lot of those fails that you
I didn't say a lot of fails. We've done a lot of testing. Yeah. How's that? But actually, it makes me think of some of the experiences we've had where we've had really great success that I don't even think we expected to see. Yeah. One of those for me is, if you remember, 3 years ago when I first came over, Mexican cuisine. Mm-hmm. And we really had some operator data. We were able, and that's where we were clearing the debris out of those long target lists and saw incredible results with a distributor through your team. And I think that really kicked off a lot of work for us internal to McCormick based on the results we saw from that.
Yeah. And again, I think the other critical part of that success was engaging the sales team.
Oh, yeah.
Right, to get a better understanding of those operators, because they just have that knowledge from the street that it's hard to gain.
And I gotta say, I feel for them because it takes a lot of it takes time for them to provide that feedback back to us. But that loop of feedback from data to sales and back to us allows us to be quicker and more efficient moving forward. So as we get to the holy grail of what data could look like, hopefully that humanization becomes more, process driven, and we're taking less time from the sales team to enable them to be out in the field.
Yeah, that's our goal. I mean, we want to make it simple, less painful. How do we make all these different? Again, it's going back to like our partners at TELUS, creating these different solutions for our team to leverage the information, so it becomes part of what they do. And we're on the way. We're on our way. It's a journey, and I think we're doing well. But to your point, we're trying things, we're testing things, we're learning a lot, and we're adapting as we go.
And I would say too, from the software perspective, we're doing the same. I mean, we have a really great partnership with Affinity Group, and that feedback loop also comes to us, and we're constantly having conversations of, okay, how do we continue to simplify this for the rep? How do we again, just simplifying and making it more valuable and saving them time and enabling them to sell. And whether you're talking about a salesperson or all the way up to sales management, a phrase that we use all the time, and I think kind of applies to the concept of unlocking your data, is you have to know your business to grow your business. And so expanding beyond just like claims data, for example, being able to bring in your sales data and your shipment data and your budget and your pipeline and all those things together in one spot, to just even be able to answer the basic question of, how do I stand against my budget, right? How am I tracking against that? And what do I have in the pipeline to close that gap? And what's bringing me down? And, being able to quickly answer all those questions, but then the execution piece as well. And so having an integrated CRM system to be able to quickly say, okay, I understand that, I'm down in the Illinois market because of this distributor, and I need to see what opportunities I have against that distributor, and I need to go find white space targets for that. And okay, I found these targets, but there's 100 of those. And so how do I pare those down a little bit more to the relevant 20 that Chelsea was talking about earlier? And then being able to quickly execute that and send that to the field. And I think those are places we've gotten to. But to Neil's point, I mean, we're continuously evolving how we make that process easier and easier and easier for people.
It really does take the partnership with so many. Right?
Yeah,
it's our clients. It's our operators. When we look at what we're doing with the non-commercial space, with contract management and the GPO information that's out there.
Yeah.
But again, it's how do we get our partners to continue to see the value in that and make some strategic investments to make sure that we're unlocking these types of opportunities.
One of my favorite things we've worked on together over the last probably year or two is, I think you all at Affinity started this, and we've jumped on to utilize this data, is lost reasons in our pipeline, right? So we're focusing on the size of our pipeline all the time, but if we're not mining the data but why are we losing the opportunities we're losing? So at least for us, once a month, we have a high-level meeting where we discuss that as part of our pipeline. All right, what trends are we seeing and why we're losing, and what do we need to do to action and change those? So that feedback loop becomes critically important.
Extremely important. And we worked with Affinity Group to essentially revamp how those things are being captured. And it's such a critical point that people don't focus on. So I'm happy to hear you bring that up, is why are we losing? And being able to capture that in meaningful information, not just it was pricing or other. It's actually like, okay, let's actually get a real defined list of why are we losing, and try to amend that. And I think salespeople, and I think Neil, you'll probably be able to comment on this more, get a little nervous about reporting hey, I didn't sell this. Well, okay, like you're not going to bat 1,000, and you're going to lose opportunities. But being able to capture that and report on that, really takes it from CRM to sales enablement, because ultimately folks like Chelsea and Neil will analyze that information and attempt to improve. Really important topic.
I think it's critical to share and collaborate with our team and make sure that they're aware that it's not intended. It's not going to be used or weaponized. It's not.
Yes.
It's not. That's not the intention. The intention is to better understand the why, and then what now type scenario.
Yep.
Like, how do we activate? How do we learn from it? We have our clients are rolling out new products all the time.
Yeah.
Some of which don't work, right? In reality, but the critical component is why. Like,
Yes.
why is this not working? How do we learn from it, and how do we move on? So we're not too bright on that, but we're going to continue to make some strides towards improvement and capturing that information, because I think it's going to help both us and our clients win. So
we understand the power of unlocking all of the data, but there are a couple hurdles to do that. I think, Neil, I don't want to speak for your team or our team, but some of the challenges that we come up against are ownership issues of data and territorialism around data, and not, if we think of data as a full box of crayons, right? And we're trying to color in an image, a picture. We want to do that with every color available. Sometimes we're only given black, gray, and white. Is that a fair?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a challenge for us as an agency, because a lot of that information out there we don't necessarily own.
Right.
So partnering up with strategic partners like McCormick have been pretty open to collaborating and sharing information. And I think you had referenced some wins, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of, you talk about unlocking opportunities. We've done that. And, just, I guess, to our manufacturing community and our clients is, how do we, and maybe Chelsea, you can, help answer this. Like, how do we continue to have that open collaboration and partnership, unlocking those, and maybe from your perspective, what were the challenges for you, or opportunities that you see?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we obviously have a tight partnership in place, right? So there's protocols around the data, all of those things. But at the core of it, my mindset is, we've hired you as an arm of McCormick. And if we're not enabling you as an arm of McCormick, it can be a waste of our own money. Because at the end of the day, every case you sell benefits us. So I guess in my mind, it's always been, where available, you should have access to the data that's going to make you more successful and us more successful. So that might be different than others approach it, but it is a partnership, and you are an extension of McCormick in that way, to show up as, our representative to customers. And you need the data to arm you to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah. And we really appreciate the partnership and the willingness and openness to collaborate and leverage the information to be successful. Because ultimately, that's what we're trying to leverage the information for, is simply to work smarter, be more effective in the field, and really unlock where are some opportunities that we might not have known.
Yeah. And I think,
without it. So
maybe for folks who are just stepping into that and that data sharing, one of the things I've found most helpful is being really strategic and thoughtful about where we start that data sharing. So referring back to the, when we had talked about with distributor and Mexican cuisine overall, we knew that was a distributor who's really willing to partner with us too as McCormick. And so we were able to test with you how well that worked, right? So we started small to be able to then expand further. And I felt that was a really comfortable way to dip our toe into the water, see how it works, see how you all utilize the data, right?
Yeah.
If we're sharing it and it's not helping us, it's a little bit of a waste of both of our time. So
that's a great point. Start small and learn from it, and then prove it out, like proof of concept. How can we really activate the information and drive success. And maybe once that continues, kind of a snowball effect where we'll expand that.
Well, and I would argue you all have provided a lot of value back in the data to us. I think about some of the distributor data we partner on together. Your team is able to not only, scorecard it for us so we have a quick view of what's happening, but also drive some of those insights or deep dive where we may not have the capacity to at the moment. So I think it's been a two-way street for us in terms of that data usage and how we're leveraging it with our teams.
That's great to hear.
I'll jump in just from a technology perspective, and Mindy knows this maybe better than anyone. The foundational part of our software really started with enabling the manufacturer-broker relationship and creating that feedback loop you were just talking about. It's not just manufacturer to broker; it's back. And empowering that relationship was always something at the forefront, and is still at the forefront of our development and how we make decisions of what we want to pursue. And when it comes to the privacy of the data and the security of the data, something that strikes me at times is some manufacturers are willing to share the data, but they'll just dump files off and they'll email files or they'll throw that out. That's actually extremely insecure. And what we've developed is in our platform, the ability to syndicate that data through, but also firewall it. And for example, if Affinity Group doesn't represent a particular manufacturer in that area of the country, we can actually firewall that data to not go to Affinity Group. I think that has benefits both ways too, to the manufacturer, but also to Affinity Group, right? Hey, that part's not relevant to me. And I don't want that to go to my salespeople because ultimately, one, they shouldn't be selling that, but it's noise. Talking about clearing the debris. That would be debris in their face. But then also from a syndication standpoint, it comes down to consistency. So we're just talking about like dropping files off. I touched on this earlier, how the files look coming from McCormick versus the other client. It's all coming in different formats, and that takes a lot of time away from selling. Then you have to get data analysts involved and try to make sense of it, relate it to, hey, what do I call this operator? Okay. And by the time you actually get through that, it's very labor intensive and you've missed opportunities versus syndicating that through an automated platform harmonizes it directly into Affinity's system, to their verbiage, into their tools, in front of their salespeople. So if manufacturers are listening, one of the things I would encourage is automation is extremely important to not only the security of the data, but the activation as well. I think those two things really kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah, for us, it's a good point, and we want to really strive for less time digesting the information and more time activating it, and that's what we're really trying to get to, and share that message with our partners as we continue to grow, and as this information just continues to grow, we want to.
And the other thing I would jump in on that is a massive opportunity by being able to syndicate things in a consistent format is the cross-manufacturer white space and the selling opportunity. So, you're obviously representing products that complement each other very well. And so the ability to understand, okay, they're buying this whatever product, this chicken that this McCormick spice would go really well with, but I know they're buying this chicken, but they're not buying the McCormick spice, and bam, I have 20 or 30 leads that are really rich. Passing disparate data sets makes things like that very challenging, versus if you can do it in a consistent way, then all of a sudden you've unlocked a whole new world of opportunities.
I was going to say cross-manufacturer white space is Neil's favorite.
Oh, I know it is.
Favorite opportunity right now, but I don't disagree. And I think it can be hard sometimes as the manufacturer. We all want to be your number one client. We all want to think we're the only one you're focusing on. That's not the reality of the business, right? But it's actually more efficient for us because we get the benefit of a time you're making a call that might be on a different product for you to be able to think about our product as well, right? So I think it goes both ways. It makes us more efficient, makes you all more efficient. And that obviously sharing of data in the right way to identify white space is going to result in more successful calls.
Yeah, I think that's like the big value prop that we bring is we're in front of a customer for so many different reasons and have a lot of different opportunities in that bag. So you're right. If we may be in front of a customer because we're talking about French fries.
Yeah.
And that's where we really get to bundle those opportunities.
And I think too, in the next 3 to 6 months, we'll be getting to a point where when the sales rep walks into a customer, they'll have something on their call window when they're planning that call that will actually prescribe items based on this data. So they might not have even gone in thinking about McCormick. They should always be thinking about McCormick. Let me just put it that way. But if in the odd chance that they weren't in this example, they would be prescribed items of, hey, okay, these are really trending spices in the upstate New York market, for example, in this segment and in this cuisine, and just so happen to be stocked at this distributor we know they buy from, and bam, all of a sudden it takes the thinking out of it for them. And so that's kind of the next iteration of where we're going, how to leverage the data. I think we've gotten really good in partnership with Neil and allowing them to mine the data and isolate white space targets. But then the next step is, okay, when I'm in front of the customer, how do I actually prescribe of this product catalog that I have a lot of choices? How do I pare down and spoon feed them? Hey, these are the 5 most relevant things to this operator based on all these data points. And so that's really, like, to me, the next frontier of what we're going to unlock. But it all starts with the syndication of the data in a consistent format and directly into the tools, not in offline files.
Cross-merchandising manufacturers or bundling different manufacturers is kind of a selfish wish for us, for a sales agency, but I believe there's also a ton of benefits to it from the operator side. So can we talk a little bit about that and what's in it for them and how it helps the sale, just maybe grease the wheels for the sale a little bit?
I mean, it's what you said earlier. It's solution-based selling, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that's our biggest value proposition that we bring to both the client and the operator itself. We're not there for a singular purpose, and we're really going to try and bring different value and solutions for all of their menu, right? So that's I think that's the opportunity for us as a sales agency. But again, for the operator's perspective, it's, we're hitting on a lot of different menu parts, a lot of different options, a lot of different innovation that they may not even thought of. So it's really around the solutions that we can bring.
It's a respect of their time also, right? Like, we're not going in and just wasting time with a chef who's already busy and
we're
putting
not checking
out fires.
boxes. We're not going in there. We have a purpose, and we have with the solution top of mind, right? That's the value that we bring to the operator, and hopefully they see that as well.
Well, and their time is valuable depending on, again, the size of the operation or the way it's running. That's time they could be out, working with their, workers, training, or working with their consumers, in the restaurant. So we have to bring that value. I think we have seen some success with this, even from our manufacturer approach, being cognizant of that cross-bundling. So I think we look at what we call playbooks by cuisine within, our company, to really say, here's our bundle or suite of products for this type of cuisine. But we've been really successful in working with you all as a sales agency for us as you convert those into flip books for your sales team to think about what other products do you represent, so we can collaborate and proactively help your sales team say, here's the suite of products across your manufacturers. It benefits us as the manufacturer because then we're on every call, but it benefits the operator because we're coming forward with that holistic solution versus one piece of the need that they have.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, solution-based selling is really what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think it also goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the insights that we can bring as value to that operator, right? So the power of cross-manufacturers who are mining these insights differently, right? A protein or a meat manufacturer may be looking for different insights that benefit their organization. But when you pair those with what we're seeing from spice herb seasoning or condiments and sauces, it's really much more powerful than individually.
And then you layer in the local market knowledge of just the region and the market itself, and then add onto that the knowledge of the individual operator. They really feel like, hey, they know me. I'm more willing to listen. And
to play off that, and again, from a technology perspective, a lot of that, to connect it back to unlocking your data, a lot of that, being able to do that starts with having good data and it all organized. And so If you think about being, going into an operator, I want to understand, what they're already buying or they're not buying. But I also want to understand, okay, I know what distributors you buy from, and facilitating the sale of, okay, I most likely want to recommend products that I know are stocked at the distributors that they buy from, right? That's going to facilitate the sale. And to your point, Mindy, make them feel like, this person knows my business. And things like GS1 data as well. So we really haven't talked about that, but having access to GS1 data and being able to have spec sheets and be able to send spec sheets really quickly to customers. Obviously, we're living in an age where things like nutritionals are becoming more and more important, and so being able to send that to a customer right on the fly is, I think, really important. Things like assets as well. So, what it's like documents, images, videos, supplied by recipes, right? So there's all kinds of those things that marketing teams are coming up with. But if it's not all accessible in one spot, I think that poses a lot of challenges to the salesperson to be able to supply that customer with that information and, again, make them feel like they know their business really well.
Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to spend with us today. I feel like this conversation really illustrated the strength of our collective partnerships, the strength of our passion around business intelligence and the land of opportunity with data and insights.
Do you think other folks will enjoy it as much as we did?
I don't know. Hopefully we brought a little energy to the conversation, but I hope so. And when I'm talking about data, something I want to make clear is that we always have the pre-authorization from both the manufacturers and the sales agency to share data with each other. I think there's just so much opportunity. I mean, we're still such an infancy stage of how we use data, and there's three different perspectives on this podcast, right? Chelsea, you're coming from the manufacturer perspective. Neil's coming from the sales agency's perspective. I'm coming from the technology perspective. But folks like ourselves having these conversations and driving ideas and driving change, I think is really a really cool opportunity to be part of, and I'm really excited for that over the next few years.
And connecting the dots, right?
And connecting the dots
between the manufacturer perspective, the sales agency, and then technology, right? So
we've used a lot of buzzwords today, a lot of really energetic terms to talk about our efforts. If you had to pick one and only one word or phrase to describe insights and data in the future on your LinkedIn profile, what would it be?
Clear the brief.
Know your business to grow your business.
What, so what, now what?
Mine would be humanizing the data.
I'd like to throw in one more in.
No, you only get one.
Oh.
Okay, what is it?
Connecting the dots.
I think they're all really important. Thank you, everybody.
You've been listening to Bridge to Local with Affinity Group, where manufacturers and local operators connect for success. Stay tuned for more insights and visit affinitysales.com to see how we can help drive your business forward. See you next time.